What's up, Life Unfiltered with Joe, podcasters or YouTubers? Today there will not be a visual because I just don't feel like being on camera, and today is a hard subject for me, so I just feel weird being on camera. Anywho, but if you're a female today, I just want you to take the time, or even if you're a male, I should have not even said female. If you're a male or female, I want you to take the time to just close your eyes and think about a time where you didn't stand up for yourself. And I want you to just manifest the energy, the power, the strength to be able to do that for yourself. Because what I'm going to talk about today is something that I should have stood up for myself for, and I didn't do that. But before we get into this episode, you guys, so if you listened to one of my past podcast episodes about my son, I talked about just parenting and the struggles and how he has all these different allergy issues and he's like anaphylactic and whatnot. Well, we just discovered something new. So the other day I was frying fish at home. I was frying catfish, home cooking, doing my thing. And my son is allergic to fish. And I knew that, but I just thought that if he didn't ingest it, he would be fine. But I was wrong. So I'm thinking, and his doctor confirmed that it was like an airborne thing. So what had happened was when I was cooking the fish, the fish proteins were in the air, and he actually had his first asthma attack. I never grew up with asthma. I didn't have anyone home with me or here with me, and I had to learn what to do very quickly. Now, his doctor already talked to me about what an asthma attack looks like in a 3-year-old, so I knew the signs, but I'm happy that when the signs were present, I was able to connect the two, and I was able to know what to do immediately. So what that looked like for him was he was fine, and then once the air became toxic for him, he just started coughing uncontrollably for 5 minutes. And at that point, I knew something was wrong because he started coughing to the point of gagging and wanting to puke again, which is his body struggling to get air. So I called his doctor, she confirmed, and we have a steroid medication for him that is put into a breathing treatment, like a nebulizer. So she went ahead and told me to give 2 of those to him and then monitor him to make sure that his airways were going to respond as they should. And they did, and I'm happy that they did, but the poor boy, he was in the middle of his second breathing treatment, and his body just became so tired, and he ended up actually falling asleep, which I Googled, and I'm not saying Google is true or everything, but Google did state that it's very common to get tired after an asthma attack because your body was working so hard to breathe and it was using all of its energy to just get oxygen. But that was it was so scary. And, again, I knew he had asthma, but we never experienced this before. So that was just another little hurdle or something that we had to overcome. But now I know that his allergy to fish is way more serious than we had initially thought, which brings on another thing. It's if I'm bringing him to a friend's house or an environment, I have to make sure that environment is safe. And when you think making sure an environment is safe as far as a parent, you think, okay, is there any drugs around or any maybe weird people, or is there going to be supervision? Is there going to be small parts around that he could put in his mouth or these things? But in my sense, and I didn't think about this, was when I asked myself, is that environment safe? I now have to think about, is that environment fish free? And I have to ask people, hey, I know this is weird, but did you by chance fry any fish within the last couple hours? Because if my son were to walk in there, he could go into an asthma attack. And it's weird because I never thought of thinking of an environment is safe or not when it comes to the smell of things or the air, but now I have to. So it's kind of like an eye-opener. It can be a little bit awkward. I just asked one of my friends, if we're going to her house, like, hey, this is random, and I asked her the question, like, is there going to be fish particle things in the air? Anywho, that's my little, I don't know, segment into this episode, I guess. I just wanted to update you guys on this experience I had. But anywho, let's get into our Amazon review. Okay, so Amazon review today. We do have Christmas coming up, and what is a better time to purchase rechargeable batteries? So I'm constantly changing the batteries in all my son's toys, and I couldn't remember if I reviewed this yet or not, so I'm sorry if this is a repeat, but I just got to thinking about the things that we need to do to prepare for Christmas and making sure that when he opens up his gifts that he will be able to play with them. And I thought batteries, and then I was like, oh, rechargeable batteries, which led me to here. Anywho, so Amazon sells multiple different versions of rechargeable batteries. I bought a big pack. Sorry, I'm looking on my Amazon app right now. So there's like an 8 count, a 10 count, a 48 count, and the price, and this is a AA battery. So they range from like $13 to like the 48 count, which is $14. And then it's really cool because Amazon makes its own rechargeable station that takes AA and AAA. So you don't need to buy 2 charging stations for each battery, but it's 2 in 1. And the rechargeable station is going for, $11.63. So per usual, these Amazon reviews, when you click on my link and purchase anything, not just what I'm reviewing, but if you click on my link below, I do receive a small commission, which helps me out. So that link will be down in the description box, and I hope that you will just click it, see if there's anything in your Amazon cart, and be able to, just give me a small commission to continue to do this for you guys. My podcast, I don't make any money off of it. I started it as a hobby, but anywho, that's all I have for the Amazon review today. All right, let's get started. So before I begin this episode, I need to put out a trigger warning to sexual harassment and sexual assault. Anyone who is triggered by that, I care about you and your mental health matters. And if you skip this episode, I will not be offended because you need to take care of you. And so if you need to tune out, right now is the opportunity to exit out of this podcast episode and maybe go catch up on others or catch me again next week. So what I'm going into about today is actually something that I have never opened up about, never talked to anyone about. I think I've told like 3 of my friends, but not like I ran and told them. I told them when the conversation was right, or there was a timing where I felt I was capable to open up about the situation, but it's not anything that I spoke publicly about, and today is my first time. So in this episode, I'm not sure how long it will be because it's kind of like a 2-part episode. So there may be 2 parts, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. So what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is an unwelcomed advance that is explicit, something that you're not comfortable with. It's something that interferes with your ability to do your job. It can be intimidating to your environment. It's a sexual display that can be offensive, inappropriate jokes, things that you are not asking for and you don't feel comfortable with. That is sexual harassment. Sexual assault, on the other hand, is a victim of intentional physical contact that is in the sexual nature without consent. And I got these definitions from swartz-legal.com if you want to take a look on that website and see where I got this information, or they probably have more information on their website if you need. So, hello, Mathew, Inman. If you are listening, no, I haven't stopped advocating and standing up for all the women that you have harassed. And today, I tell my story. So, Mathew worked at Planet Fitness, my local Planet Fitness, and I would go there all the time. It was my safe zone. It was somewhere I went every single day, just getting my workout in, whatever. And at the time, I knew who he was. However, I didn't know I was a victim. So I would go there in the past with one of my ex-boyfriends, and eventually I stopped going there, and a few years had passed. So about 2 years later, I received a text one day, and the text basically said, it was like a picture of a girl, just a normal picture, and I said, yeah, I'm sorry, who is this? I don't know you. And he was like, oh, your ex so-and-so gave me your number. And I said, okay, why? And at that point, he had texted me an explicit picture of himself, of his penis, and just very not, I didn't ask for this, and I don't know who's on the other end, so I don't know who this picture is. It's unwelcomed, not necessary. Please stop texting me, basically, is what I said, right? So going forth, I had talked to one of my friends, oh my gosh, what just happened to me, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, dude, I know who that is, and he does that to all these girls, and she named off a few. And I was like, what? I don't understand. What do we all have in common? How did he get all of our numbers? And who the fuck is it? And she was like, his name is Mathew Inman. And so they discovered that he actually, while working at Planet Fitness, we all worked out at Planet Fitness, so we knew it had to be associated to the gym. He got into all of our accounts, all of our personal information, the number you sign up with, right? That's how he got my number. He had the addresses to the whatever we signed up with, what address we lived at, all of our personal information. And he would pick his victims at the gym, get their information from the accounting system, and then he would sexually harass them via text. Now, these harassments also came on Instagram, Twitter, but not Facebook. So we all searched up Mathew Inman on Facebook and realized we were all blocked. None of us could search him. So that kind of got the ball rolling on what I should do. So I told him to stop texting me, and about every month I would get many text messages of him, and he was naked, and asking oh, do you want this, or do you like what you see? Or he would just talk about himself, and I would constantly tell him, please stop texting me, please leave me alone. So after a few months of this, I just got fed up. It's not fair that I have to wait for sexual pictures to pop up on my phone and feel uncomfortable that you have my information, and also feel like you are superior to me and that you have control. That's not happening. So what did I do? I talked to the other girls that this was happening to, and to my surprise, none of them wanted to go to the police, and I know a few of them even changed their phone numbers. And that is such an important detail to me, because if you're a victim, a lot of times we don't have the strength, or maybe we don't feel like we should stand up or that we don't have a chance to stand up for ourselves. So many of these girls changed their phone numbers. But I was like, not me. I'm not running. You got me fucked up if you think I'm going to run from you, because I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to fight back. So this is what I did. I have already told him to leave me alone. He did not. So I went to my local police department and I filed a report. I took all my screenshots of all the text messages and I gave them to the investigator. So at this point, Mathew texts off a text app. So he constantly changes numbers. So no matter how many times I would block it, he would just create a new number, retext me, or all these other girls. So the investigator that I was assigned was basically like, we can't trace this number. He only showed his face, I think by accident, in one of the pictures. Do you have any leads on who this is? And I told him the lead that I thought it was, and an investigation was opened. So when the investigation opened, basically at that point, as the victim, it's out of your hands and you kind of just let the police off, like the investigator, do their thing, figure it out. So after some research, he did confirm that it was Mathew Inman. Now, he went to Planet Fitness where he was fired. I'm not sure why, but he was fired from there. He went to the next employee that was listed in whatever system investigators use, and he was fired from there. He went to a house that was registered in his name, and it was foreclosed. So the investigator went to Mathew's parents' house. Now, when he went into Mathew's parents' house, it was actually kind of funny. Mathew and his parents were in the garage all together, and the detective had no issue with serving him papers that he was getting served, that a charge was getting put out against him in front of his parents, and said what the charge was for. And I'm sure it was pretty embarrassing for him. But that's not all. So I was going after the charges of sexual harassment and stalking charges. Now, at this point, since they know who it is, they know the charges that I want to pursue, it goes to the prosecutors. So the prosecutor office failed me. The social justice system failed me. And I think that's why a lot of girls or men, whoever, they are hesitant to press charges or go to the police, because the system fails a lot of people, because that's what happened to me. So the prosecutors basically denied my case and said there's not enough evidence, that he claimed he didn't know that he was texting me. And I found this all to be bullshit, because I presented these text messages, and one of the text messages, he called me by my name. So I don't understand how the prosecutor said that they took his side, that he didn't know he was texting me, when in the text messages, he called me by my name, by my government legal name. So he knew exactly who he was texting. And how is there not enough evidence when in all these text messages, I would tell him to please stop, leave me alone. I brought up all the numbers that I had blocked and all the new numbers that he had texted me off of. And that's harassment. And I just felt so defeated that he was let off with a warning, and that was all there was to it. Now, this did give me insight as to why people don't report, because the social justice system doesn't protect you. And it could in some cases, but in this case, as a female, I was asking for protection, and they couldn't protect me. Because what if at this point, Mathew knew I was going after him and he came after me physically? What if he got angry and came after me physically? That's my safety. And they didn't even accept me to get like a PPO or anything like that. So I just felt more of like a victim than I was previously because now I made him mad. Good thing he has never texted me again after that, which is awesome. However, before recording this episode, yesterday, a girl had reached out to me and said that he was still texting her to this day. She is one that did not change her phone number. However, she didn't go to the police department and file a complaint and open a case. And at this point, it's been a good year, 2 years. So I continue to encourage her to go to the Lansing Police Department and open a case. And here's why. Because a squeaky wheel will get fixed, right? They will be able to see that if more people come and open a case against him for sexual harassment and stalking, that eventually they aren't going to let him just off with a warning. And eventually they will realize that he is an issue in this community, and in his case, specifically to females. So the squeaky wheel will get greased. It will get fixed, but it's the people's jobs, the victims' jobs, to make his name known in the justice system so that they can finally take us seriously. And I did a little brief talk about this on my Instagram under my highlights, Joe Talks. So if you want to go add me on Instagram, that will be below in the description, and then you can go through and see me talking about the situation when it happened. And I basically told Mathew that I was not finished and I was not done making his name known. Because even if your name is known, that doesn't mean it's for a good thing. And in this case, it's not. So moving on, it breaks my heart that women don't feel that they have the ability or the strength or the courage to stand up to protect themselves. And this sounds conceited, but I wish more women were like me. When this happened to me, I said, absolutely fucking not. I'm not going to run, and I'm going to pursue pressing charges against you, and I will come after you. And so now this is my third platform. I did Instagram, the police department, and now podcast, that I have not stopped fighting for my justice and other women's justice to not be sexually harassed. And basically, that's all I have to say. So if you're a victim of Mathew Inman, report him to the Lansing Police Department, open a case, tell them my name so they can look at my case that I had filed that got closed to understand that he is an issue. And if you're a victim of someone else who has sexually harassed you, go push to be protected and go push to have them be held accountable. Now, it might not happen the first time, like me, but do it every single time because eventually something will happen. So that's all I have to say about that. That was not as long as I thought it would take. We're at 16 minutes, but we're going to move on to what I would say is like a step up from sexual harassment, and that is sexual assault. I am nervous about this episode because it's something that I have never admitted and never thought I was a victim of. And after some conversation with one of my very close friends, it made me aware that I was a victim of sexual assault. And the culture and the community that I'm trying to bring on this podcast is being able to be unfiltered and not be judged, not be looked at different, and just to be supportive of one another. So in order to create that culture and that community, I have to start it because it's my podcast. So here I am coming at you, unfiltered. Now, I did do a sexual assault episode with someone else, and that's called We Don't Promise You a Rose Garden, episode 14. And that was an interview of someone and her sexual assault. She did stay anonymous. And then this sexual assault story of mine actually started back on episode 9 called I'm Sorry, Mom. So in episode 9, at 41 minutes and 40 seconds, you can start the beginning of the story. But there's a twist. When I was telling that story for a fun episode, I left out these graphic details, these details that I was a victim of sexual assault, and I didn't necessarily lie to you guys, but I wasn't fully unfiltered, which I told myself was going to be my thing for my podcast, hence the name. So at 41 minutes and 40 seconds on episode 9, you will learn that I was in this random guy's house at a party, and that's where this sexual assault happened. So we were all partying. I was with my friends. Everything was going fine. And then the owner of the house pulled out a gun. So Wade, if you are listening to this, or if this podcast ever gets to you, I just want you to know that I have not forgotten what you did to me. And at the time, I didn't think that I was a victim, and I downplayed myself, and I didn't come after you. But today, I'm making your name known publicly. Unfortunately, I don't know your last name, but I do know the city where you live. So at the time, I was partying. He pulled out this gun, and he was very upset. He was waving the gun around, da-da-da-da. And the reason why he was upset was because he wanted to have sex with somebody. And guess who was on his mind? Me. I was. So I was in the bathroom with my friend, the guy she was with, and this person, Wade, he has a gun out. We're locked in the bathroom. He won't let us out. So there's 4 of us in the bathroom. He pulls the gun out. I'm assuming it's loaded, obviously. And he basically threatens me to have sex with him. Not just like him and I, but like also in front of these people. And I denied. Obviously, I did not want to. There was no consent. And when you're in survival mode, you kind of think like, okay, now I'm in survival mode. Now there's a physical gun to my head to perform this sexual act. What can I do to survive? And I thought, I took a route, and I'm not sure if this is the right route, but basically the route I took was, oh, come on, let's go get more drunk, let's drink. And I was hugging him and kissing him, trying to make him feel more like I wanted it or that he felt loved, because I have a gun to my head and I don't want him to be angry. But he did not settle for that. So basically, I offered to give him a blowjob in return to not get shot in the head, and instead of sex, because in my mind, when you're in survival mode, it's basically like, what can I do to get out of this situation? But also in my mind, it was more okay for me to accept giving a blowjob than it was to have sex with him, for whatever reason that is. In my mind, I was able to process that easier, I guess. I don't know. So I ended up performing this sexual act to make him happy, to make him put away his gun, to make him not point the gun at me. And that was that. After that, we were let out of the bathroom, all three of us and him, so all four of us, we were let out of the bathroom. And I basically just said, like, I want to go to bed and I want to get up as early as I can and leave. Looking back at the time that I had experienced that, I did not think I was a victim of sexual assault, and here's why. Because I felt like I put myself in that position. I wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. I was drunk as a minor. My mom didn't know where I was. So I felt like I put myself in that place. So therefore, this happened and that was my fault. And then when I talked him out of having sex and offered to give him a blowjob instead, again, I offered to do that sexual act. So again, I didn't feel like I was a victim, even though this entire time I didn't want to do either one of those, but I was doing it to survive. And also at the time there was a gun in my head. So I don't know. And it's still weird for me to this day. And this is the conversation I had with my friend. It's still weird to say that I was a victim of sexual assault and to say that that was me and that happened to me, because after that happened, I never spoke of it. I blamed it on myself. It was my fault, and what happened, and I've learned my lesson to not go to random people's houses drunk as a minor. And I just pushed it away. I pushed it down to the point where now when I speak of it, I don't want people to come to me and say, I'm so happy you're safe, or I'm so happy you're okay. Like, everything's gonna be okay, and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't feel like I need that support because it's so far in the past and I've already accepted what it was that I don't really feel any emotion to it. Now there are things like, why don't I feel emotion? Do I not feel emotion because I pushed it down, because I pushed it away, because I didn't accept what had happened was actually me being sexually assaulted? I don't know. But this wasn't me coming out for people to feel bad for me or anything like that, but more so to make the point that anyone who's listening can think about their experiences and ask themselves, was I a victim of sexual harassment? Was I a victim of sexual assault? And be able to come with those, peace with that term to be able to say, because I didn't have peace in saying those words until a few days ago. And it's been years at this point. But it's important to recognize, if this happened to you, it's important to recognize the truth that it wasn't your fault. Because even if you put yourself in a bad situation, that's not asking someone to do something bad to you. And that's not, because you put yourself in a bad position, it doesn't give the other people the right to act like this or to do that to somebody. And it's okay to say that you are a victim, and it's okay to own up to that, because previously I didn't think that was okay for me to tell myself or to express that to others, because I hear other people's stories and I feel like their stories are worse. So if their stories are worse, then, maybe mine doesn't meet the requirements, or maybe mine wasn't that bad. And the reality is, sexual assault is sexual assault. That's all there is to it. That's what it is. So, anywho, and again, that goes back to my point, why didn't I report? Well, I didn't report because how I said earlier, I thought it was my fault. So how am I going to report something that I feel like is my fault? Because then I'm not going to have a case. Or I didn't report because my mom didn't know where I was, and then she would find out. Or I didn't report because I was drunk. And does that make it okay because I was drunk, I let him do that to me? All these questions went through my head, and that's why I didn't report, why I didn't go after him. But yeah, so if you look back into your memories and you think about a time that you didn't stand up for yourself, rather it be sexual harassment, sexual assault, or just something even small, ask yourself, did I deserve to stand up for myself at the time? And the answer is going to be yes, you did. You did have the strength and maybe you didn't have the strength or the courage, but you can gain that strength and courage now to speak up and stand up for yourself. And I hope anyone who is listening is able to process this podcast in the way that they need and go forth with their justice. So that was the episode today on Life Unfiltered with Joe. And I want to thank you guys for making me feel comfortable and supporting my platform of being unfiltered and giving me this community in this app to be able to express myself no matter what it is. And I want to welcome others to this community that they can be comfortable to express themselves around me and go ahead and just give you that empowerment. Like if that means that I have to speak first, I want to give you that and be able to pass off that empowerment to you. So tune in to next week and we will see you then.